Hello and welcome to the video. This video is an exclusive first look at this thing here. Now, you might be thinking, hang on a minute, that's just an AR Wing Pro. No, actually, it's an awful lot smaller. This is the baby AR Wing Pro, or affectionately known as the BARP. Now, I have been lucky enough to get my hands on one of these, and I thought it'd be useful to have a look at it. Somebody actually accidentally put it on a website, so you may have seen some pictures of it. I've had lots of emails and questions from people asking what specific design elements are in here. So I've got a reasonable idea what people want to see, so let me get into that. Now, I had a hand in designing its bigger brother, the original AR Wing Pro. That came out back in October 2020, and it's been a big success. Lots of pilots really love it. Some pilots didn't get on with it. It's designed as a kind of a big cruiser. This is designed, I think, as a little bit more of a hooligan. I've had no input on this, but you can definitely tell who its big brother is by looking at this. It just looks like an AR Wing Pro, but a kind of baby version. Kind of makes sense. Now, while I unbox this, let me go through the specs. So this is the baby AR Wing Pro. It has a 682mm wingspan, so that's about 26.8 inches. The length of this thing is about 320mm, that's about 12.6 inches. The motor at the back is a little 1604 3800 kV unit. The ESC that's installed inside here is a 30 amp with a 5 volt 2 amp BEC. And it also includes the JST lead, which these guys have been doing forever, which is great. It's a fantastic way to power the things like your FPV system, or LED lights, or whatever it is, directly from the battery without having to solder extra things in. The servos in this are 4.3 gram plastic servos, and you get a single prop in the box, which is a 4 by 2.5 inch prop. The battery you're going to need for this is designed for 3S and either LiPo or lithium polymer. We'll look at that more closely in a moment. And if you can fit one in up to about 2200 milliamp hours, it's going to be great. The PMP model weighs about 174 grams with the prop. So you're going to struggle to get this under 250 grams, but I don't think that's what this is all about. There are 250 gram style models in the lineup already. Now, the interesting thing is that ZOHD in the manual have also talked about what the speeds, minimum, maximum speeds and cruise speeds are, and I'm really pleased to see this kind of detail in a manual like this, because if you're setting up a flight controller and you're going to add things like airspeed sensors, this kind of stuff is really important. Maximum speed for this, they reckon, with a power combo, which I assume is a larger motor and prop and ESC, is about 100 kilometers an hour. Minimum speed, which is kind of weight dependent, they reckon is approximately about 31 kilometers per hour, so that's about 19-20 miles per hour. And they reckon that the cruise is about 40 kilometers per hour. The maximum takeoff weight for this with the power combo is about 470 grams, although I'd recommend trying to keep it as under that as much as you possibly can. And beautifully in the manual, they're also talking about the reflex that's needed on the ailerons. So many manuals and so many manufacturers don't put this detail in, and if you're not using a flight controller, you kind of have to guess. You're going to need about 1 to 1.5 millimeters of up on both of the ailerons. And I'm really, really pleased to see that ZOHD are really embracing that kind of detail in their manuals. It's going to make setup so much easier. There are an awful lot of things that I like about this design. Obviously, the wings are removable and they are put in place with a simple thumb screw. The wing ends are popped on with a bit of Yoo-hoo pour or hot glue, and they'll stay in place quite nicely. And the wings are held in place by nice large-headed thumb screws, so you don't need any tools at the field to put them together. There aren't any electrical connections at the wing roots, so unfortunately you have to kind of route the cables through, but at a wing of this size I'm not too worried about that. I think I'd rather save the weight than have that weight in my battery and flight controller and FPV system, rather than having lumps of copper in the wing roots. The battery bay is a lot larger than others in this class that I've built. It's about 38mm deep, 108mm long, and about 102mm wide. There's an extra 170mm step behind where the carbon fibre is, where the ESC sits. It's capable of holding a 3S LiPo, or you could get an 18650 lithium ion pack in here if it's a flat pack. If it's one where the three are together, there's kind of one of the cells on top, it won't fit. I do like the fact that the servo horns are streamlined. ZOHD are calling this aero guard, but what it means is that when it's flying along, the servo horn is protected in the event of a crash if it flips over, but also the airflow isn't being disrupted over the air by all of that stuff at the front. It's still obviously going to hit the connectors at the back. Speaking of the connectors at the back, they're little ball links. This is really nice attention to detail. I haven't had a model of this size where they've included ball links as part of the setup. There are also pockets under each side of the wing, along with a channel to get the cable from the pockets into the central bay. Now, they're not massively deep, but again, this is a really cute attention to detail. It does mean that you can add your GPS out there if you wanted to, or more likely, your radio system or your FPV system. And it is incredibly flat. It looks quite big when you're looking from the top, but looking from the front, you can see how streamlined it is, which I guess is why with things like the Power Pack, you can get those nice high speeds, and it should be reasonably efficient in flight. There is a carbon fibre spar in the back close to the elevons for less wiggle, and carbon fibre reinforcement within the wings too, and they feel incredibly stiff and very secure when they're in place and held in place with that thumb screw. Elevons are interesting. They're using a 4-hinge design, actually moulded out of the foam itself, so they're very, very free moving. And there is also kind of room in here so that if you wanted to, you could cut those out and you could replace them with something like CA hinges or something else if you really wanted to. It'll be interesting to see how they hold up, but I love the fact that they've really thought about making those control surfaces as flexible and easy to move as possible for those smaller servos. There is lots of room in the single bay. At the front, there is the space for the camera. Immediately behind that, there is the space for the battery. And then you have room for things like your flight controller, your FPV gear, and other pieces too. And then on the shelf at the back, you know, there's room if you wanted to add things like your GPS and stuff and put the ESC out the other side. Airflow is coming in through the front and then exhausting out the back. And I think you need to make sure if you're using HD stuff that you try to mount the HD stuff in that airflow. In terms of building, well, there isn't really any building at all. All you have to do is glue the wing tips into place. Again, I use Yoo-Hoo Pour here and it's worked really nicely. There are a couple of decals that can go on, including a protection decal that goes on the leading edge, although you could absolutely add tape on there if you wanted to give it a little bit more protection. There is a lot that I like about this design. I like the fact that we can see the DNA exactly from its bigger brother, the AR Wing Pro, in this baby AR Wing Pro. Looking at them side by side, this absolutely looks like a baby AR Wing Pro. There is a lovely finish to the foam. This is using their latest EPP foam. The very first AR Wing Pros that were shipped were using the previous formulation. This is the latest one. It's a lovely finish, and this EPP that they're using now in all of their models has a little bit more resilience and is a little bit stiffer than the ones they've used in the past. I like the fact that for this version all the electronics are pre-installed, so that's going to make putting in of the flight controller and other pieces, or your stabilizer and your FPV gear, a piece of cake, including that additional JST lead. I love all the thoughtful touches about how it's been designed, things like the wing bays, things like the recessed servo horns, the ball links, the fact that we have all of the channels and everything done, and the wings are removable too, which means this will fit in a backpack if you're going up to a ridge to do some ridge flying. I'm also a fan of the fact that ZOHD have actually put some effort into the manual, so things like central gravity are actually moulded into the wing, but things like the throws and reflex are absolutely in there, so tick v good. Thank you ZOHD for actually making the effort with that, so many people don't. And I like the fact that they thought about airflow just to keep everything cool inside, particularly with modern HDFBV systems. They run quite hot and a bit of airflow can make all the difference. And they're also going to be selling spare parts too. Hopefully that's going to continue for a long time. Having spare parts to replace bits that are lost in crashes, particularly if you're flying in a spirited fashion, is a big deal. Not just for the motors and the electronics, because let's face it, most people will probably end up changing and tweaking things over the life of the model. But when you snap a wing or you lose a wingtip, you'll be able to get those pieces to replace them too. Only a couple of things to be aware of from my playing with this thing here. Again, there aren't any electrical connectors in the base of the wing, so when you put it together, you're going to have to kind of feed the wires through. At the moment, with just the servos out in the wing, that's no big deal. But if you're going to add things like your Crossfire or Express LRS receiver in one side and maybe your FPV system in the other, that's going to require a little bit more effort. And the other thing as well is the battery placement. The battery placement is right behind that camera, and the camera's in the middle of the nose. That does mean that although you can get the camera easily into position, and it will support, kind of HD systems, where you put then the air unit or the avatar unit or your HD0 unit is going to require a little bit of thought. The only thing, if they'd have asked me before they produced this, I would probably put the camera off to one side and made a bay with airflow that you could put the air unit or avatar unit or whatever in, and then you could have had everything up here, which would have been kind of an easier way to do it. I might make that mod. I might see how it all goes together. I think for me personally, for my HD system, I'm going to mount it here underneath where the airflow is, on top of maybe the flight stack, and then that means that that's going to be cooled, and then maybe try and pull out this battery tray and run the cable underneath it to go into the camera at the front. That's literally the only thing at the moment that I can find that I don't absolutely love about this. So stay tuned. I will be building this out and we will take it for a fly, but hopefully that's been useful for those of you that have seen this listed and have been asking questions about it. I can't wait to fly this model. Its bigger brother is kind of a big cruiser designed for those kind of things, and this is going to look very, very similar in the air, and hopefully if I can get the walk signal system in it, it's going to be a lot of fun too. So stay tuned. If you have any questions, pop them down below, and hopefully I'll see you soon where we'll be at the field and we'll put this through its paces. Thank you for watching the video. If you watch my videos and find them useful, then please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps the channel a lot. If you really like what I'm doing here, you can become a Patreon and support the time I spend helping others and get access to lots of exclusive benefits. Link is in the video description. Remember that all the videos on the channel are organized into playlists, so you can easily use those playlists to find all the videos on a subject that you are interested in. Add Painless 360 to your searches on Google and YouTube, and it'll help you find my content for any particular topic. Thanks again for watching, and as always, happy flying.